So I'll bring in Martha KARUA at this juncture. As I said, you've reasoned despite everything, every stumbling block that was put on your way. And we've had, I think you've just missed out also on Khalid's presentation Khalid is from the African Development Bank, and the ambassador's presentation. Also, like you, woman phenomenal, in the words of Maya Angelou. So still, we will manage to capture that in the panel discussion. I'd like to welcome you to give your keynote speech at this point. There'll be a video introducing you shortly. I'm not sure, Tech, do you have that ready?
Martha KARUA is a Kenyan Member of Parliament, former Minister for Water and Development 2003 to 2005, and Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs 2005 to 2009. She plays an essential role in the transformation of Kenya, which she recently recorded in her autobiography. In Africa, she particularly inspires young women with her life story. In addition to her political activities, she is an attorney at the Supreme Court of Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to GPAD 2021, Martha KARUA.
Karibu, Martha.
Thank you for that introduction, and sorry for my timing, because I missed on the starting time. I want to thank you for the invitation, the organizers of this meeting, and I will say, with all protocols observed, the interaction between North and South is as old as history itself. We have accounts of Asian trade and the interaction that resulted not only in the slave trade, but also in colonization. And after the coming of the United Nations, arrangements of global partnership for development and for trade. And we know that our world is interconnected and interdependent, and that when one is hurting, we are all hurting. And without each other, we cannot be able to progress. So global partnership has been there and continues to be there for a variety of reasons and for mutual benefit of all the partners. We know that we learn by exchange of knowledge and experiences. And through our interaction, we do learn of best practices, and we are then able to build on it. And this conference is coming at a time when we have the COVID pandemic, which has reminded us of our interconnectedness, that what happens in any part of the world will impact the entire world positively or negatively. And for this pandemic, the world has stood together to fight it, although not as much as we would have liked to see, because at the moment, the global South does not have full access to vaccines, while the global North, some countries have as many vaccines as maybe 5 times the population. And this puts the entire world at risk, because if the South is not able to fight the pandemic, then it means that the North will not be free of the pandemic, because it will be cyclic. Right now, we are hearing of resurgence in the North, and because of travel and the interconnectedness of the world today, it means that we'll have another wave circulating around the world. So the point I'm making is that our interaction is for our mutual benefit and for mutual support. And it should not stop at trade, at technology, it should be in all areas so that we are able to keep the world safe, share the prosperity in the planet, and ensure that all human beings are living in conditions that promote life, not work against it. I want, in the same breath, to acknowledge the great leadership of the immediate former Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Angela Merkel, not on the pandemic, but on the humanitarian crisis that has been there and is continuing, of migration from Africa, people using boats to cross to Europe, and the way she led in the handling of the humanitarian crisis, which shows that she was conscious, the leadership in Germany was conscious of the interconnectedness, interdependence of the world, and that the human race is one, and we need to support each other. This ought to extend to matters of trade, of development, of fighting a pandemic like this global pandemic. And I think the whole idea of aid is based on this reasoning. However, we have challenges in our partnership, challenges of governance, challenges that we in Africa and in the developing world have to fight with, because unless if our resources are applied for the benefit of the majority, not a few, then we become dependent on aid. But if our resources are used to benefit, for the benefit of the nation, then we will progress and not require any support from our partners, but just require fair trade. And our call today is for fair trade more than aid. But like I have said, fair trade is also dependent on many things, including governance. And the challenge of governance is a challenge we have to rise to as the developing nations, so that our resources are exploited for the benefit of the majority, not to make newly minted super rich class of a few, while the rest are wallowing in poverty. To this extent, I think the global community has also a responsibility to work together to ensure that multinationals who are interacting with the global South for trade or for services also observe rules, that international trade rules, and do not engage in unfair practices. The governance challenges cannot be overcome without a concerted global effort, so that the North is able to rein in their multinationals, and we in Africa rise to the challenge of governance. And the call for fair trade ought to be accelerated. If you look at the countries of the global South, the poor countries, you will find that they have abundance of natural resources, from minerals to many other things, to richness in agricultural products and all. Yet, the trade, unless the rules are changed, seems to favor sometimes the global North or the multinationals, and then the trade barriers that prevent the global South from being able to achieve to reap the benefits of the natural resources. To this extent, even when we come to innovation, there's a lot of innovation in the global south and even here in Kenya. But you will find that most of the texts coming up will be from people in the global north coming to register here, perhaps sometimes partner with locals, then take off after exploiting the locals and patent those innovations. These are things we need to look into so that our aid is not, the aid and partnership is not a permanent solution. The permanent and sustainable solution is for mutual benefit of the partners. We cannot talk about sustainable development without talking about climate, managing the environment, and especially the challenges of climate change. This again is a big challenge in the global south. We have not so far done as much as we should in mitigating the challenges of the climate change. But this is something that is now beginning to become the norm. We need again to work together, because if you look at what is accelerating the negatives of climate change, the gas emissions are coming from more from the developed countries than from the developing countries. So how can we support each other to do this? I want to say that no country can manage without the rest of the world. We are so interconnected that our progress is dependent on each other. And that is why these conversations are so important, so that we can forge our way together. We can identify the challenges, work on them, and be able to emerge as strong partnerships. We can be able to have a world where all human beings are living in a way that promotes life, not works against it. I look forward to a day that we will not have people fleeing Africa because of strife and because of poverty. Strife and poverty are brought by challenges of governance, as I have mentioned. No country is so poor in resources that it cannot develop. And therefore, for me, the greatest challenge is in governance, and how we move together to overcome this challenge internally and externally is something that we need to look at. I think I want to end there. Once again, thanking the organizers and congratulating the very thought that we should have this conversation on for African. I thank you.